The H-1B visa scene in 2025 is heating up. New fees, new rules, and lots of confusion. Thousands of people are asking the same question, that is this the end of the H-1B era? Also, there are other questions that people are confused about, that what is really happening behind these updates? And most importantly, is this the turning point of the immigration system or just another phase of confusion? A lot to unpack, a lot to predict also. So before starting, let me read out this very important disclaimer that is in front of your screen. By watching our videos, you agree and understand that the information provided by our experts and attorneys, including comments and replies from users, is not legal advice. Use of information at your own risk. All right, friends, with that, once again, welcome back everyone to Immigration Talk Show. I'm your host, Sam. And today we have this very important discussion that is lined up just for you. We are live on YouTube, also available on LinkedIn, Facebook, X, and on Instagram as well. And today our topic is very hot and very important. What is the current H-1B situation in 2025? To help me out in making this session a wonderful one, I have an expert in this and who has nearly 2 decades of experience in the field of immigration, none other than attorney Ruby L. Powers, who is also a board certified immigration attorney and the founder of Powers Law Group in Houston. So let me welcome our very special guest. Hi, Ruby. Welcome back to Immigration Talk Show, and thank you so much for being here. Really glad to have a show with you.
Thank you for having me. And yes, you did summarize a key point. There's a lot of uncertainty, unfortunately. And this just sort of came out of nowhere about 2 weeks ago, I believe, a week and a half ago, and has just really put a lot of people at unease at this moment, unfortunately. So we can do a little bit of a background of what's happening, that we just give a little bit of a background, and then we can take some questions. But I think, as you stated, like, there's a lot of unknowns right now, and it's sort of hard to set any decision, make any decisions other than potentially try to explore other options. But we always say that because we never know if the individual is going to win the lottery, and we're always exploring those alternatives. But yeah, we can go ahead and go through some of the information I have prepared.
Absolutely, and we would love to have that information for you. Friends, just make sure that we are here live for half an hour, and whatever questions or whatever doubts you are having right now in your mind regarding the topic, please go ahead and put them in the comment section. We would definitely take all those questions and try to help you out as much as possible. And also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Our handle is at Immigration Talk Show. All right, Ruby. So I think today the topic is very important and very hot as well, because in terms of H-1B, I think every day something or the other is happening. So people are scared and they're tensed as well. So if you can give us a little bit of summary about what is the current H-1B situation in 2025, then that would be a little helpful for our viewers.
Well, I think probably one of the things that we technically don't have a lot of technical changes. So I think we could, and what happened was, what was that day? It was just about the end of September. And it was on a Friday. I think it was the September the 26th, I believe it was. And on that day, there was a White House announcement, and like later in the day, and it really wreaked a lot of havoc on because of the way it was interpreted, the way it read. And then there was a lot of panic. A lot of people were afraid that they would have to pay, if they were out of the country, they would have to pay $100,000 to get back in the country. People were changing their flights, they just landed and got the news, and then were trying to pay $1,000 flights to get themselves back into the country. But then on X, the press secretary for the White House, of all things, on X, a social media platform, announced that no, that's not what they meant, or that's not how we're supposed to interpret what they said, and we're sort of backtracking
Yeah.
what was happening. But it really caused so much chaos those couple of days and the during the weekend because there was so much uncertainty. The way it read, it sounded as if you were traveling and wanted to get back in as an H-1B holder, you'd have to pay $100,000. Then they later backtracked and said, no, no, whatever we're talking about is for the future, in the coming year. But it still caused a lot of uncertainty as to what are we what does that mean. And we're seeing a lot of people like let's say school districts, for example, they're saying, well, what does that mean? Are we going to pay 100,000 per person, or for the school district, for is it employer, is it per person? And it's just still, it is still not clear to this day. If you want to share my screen, I can put, like, we can go through a couple of slides.
Yeah.
So I'm board certified. I've been practicing, like you said, for a while, and I'm with Powers Law Group. We're a full service immigration law firm. So, honestly, I guess I lost track. It was a week before that. So I've been traveling and at a lot of conferences. There's so many changes. So on, let's see, okay, the Friday before the one I told you all. So it was September 19th. There was a proclamation that employers had to pay 100,000 for certain H-1Bs, and that it was going to start like that weekend. So it was given like very, very little notice. And then that's what caused so much confusion, because people were afraid that if they were coming back in, they were going to have to pay the $100,000. But then after all of that, they basically backtracked and said, no, no, what we're talking about is for next year. And so, but we're still unclear. There's been a lot of this is what this is what they were originally saying, and then this is what they're saying now. But
Yeah.
then I think we're still confused as is it per individual or is it for the company? But if you are representing a small company that only does maybe one or two applications for H-1B, it's very cost prohibitive to do so. So, like you were saying, like, this can, in effect, almost eliminate the ability to do this. If you're a large company that applies for hundreds or if not thousands of H-1B workers, $100,000 is not that big of a deal. It's like a drop in the bucket, and it probably won't change. But if you're talking about each applicant, then this really is going to make companies think twice, and it's really going to take out a lot of the entry level H-1B type of applicant, from this situation. So again, they were basically trying to clarify. They were talking about 2026, and not right now. And for what they're indicating is that it could be per H-1B worker.
Mhm.
Um, but it's not exactly clear. And there's also going to be a lot of litigation about this between now and then. But there's very limited guidance on this. So there's another thing that's going on right now too, where they're making some of the consular processing is more difficult because they're making individuals go back to their home country and eliminating or extremely restricting third country
Yeah.
visa processing on the non-immigrant and the immigrant side. And in addition to that, we also have the government shutdown,
Yeah.
which has limited the ability for certain things to be processed, and those things are where we're hearing that the consulates could start slowing down, and are there, depending on how long the shutdown it continues for. And so anyway, these are just some of the I want to go to just basically, there's a lot of uncertainty. We're not really sure what's going to happen. But I think one of our biggest takeaways is we need to continue to monitor this to see where they're going, and companies are going to need to make decisions on,
Mhm.
do they want to participate with this or not? Do they have the funds for it? And are there alternatives? Now, and I know for the most part, we talk about those alternatives because if the H-1B is not going to work, what are we going to, if they don't win the lottery that first time, then we have to go to another alternative. And so, budget planning is what's going to need to be happening, and it could reduce competitiveness and attracting global talent. Unfortunately, I think right now we're, TN. Well, that's only going to impact Canadians and Mexicans if we already think about that in the first place. But can we go to an O? Can we go to an L? Even national interest waivers and perms are taking longer than they were before. So even if you have this information right now in October 2025 and you're talking about next year's system, like you might not have a lot of time to put things in order. Like an L, you might be able to, because if you say 1 year and the last 3 years for employment, depending on what you can do. But this is basically what we need to be doing is planning, and thinking through what the other takeaway we're telling people is to avoid non-essential travel, just because we don't know what's going to happen again. Is there going to be another last minute, Friday afternoon posting,
Yeah.
that's going to put a lot of people, at unease? And so, where there's confusion, there's even when there's a lot of last minute, decisions like these, um, that do not have a lot of implementation time, this is not ideal, because there's so many room for confusion with just reading the letter of the rule, or not the rule. Let me say that again. The way that they're explaining what the change is, and so it can usually what you need is time to have those frequently asked questions, time for there to be more policy guidance. That's why ideally you don't make a change due effective immediately, nor within 48 hours, nor on a weekend when the people are not working. And so these are just some of the things to be thinking about: the hiring plans and budgeting, thinking about alternatives, and definitely having an attorney on hand who's monitoring this on a regular basis. And we have a newsletter in English and Spanish and all their social media where we're putting a lot of information out. So I think that's like the high level of where we are. If an individual is eligible for an O, or maybe they would be maybe in maybe 6 months or so, because they need to just get their resume in order, or just sort of get into a space to meet those qualifications. Or if they're an E3, you would probably already be going there anyway. A TN, we already talked about that. It only has 2 nationalities. You can use that. An L, that takes some time and planning to do that. Or it might just be that the individual needs to go work work in another location for a while, and sort of write out what's happening here. Or even the perm process is taking longer, national interest waiver, like I mentioned, but maybe in the long run, just hunker down and go that route, so that you don't have to deal with this uncertainty, even if that means you can't be working from the United States during the pendency if you don't have enough time or are not eligible. So we also don't know what's going to be happening with the F1. There was a rule period, comment period about the duration of status. And so that's, I believe that period has ended already. And what they had proposed to do was to, and this impacts OPT, which is why I wanted to bring that up, is that that they would only have a certain limit of time instead of duration of status. And like, let's say 4 years for a bachelor's, and if you don't complete it, you would have to do an extension, with like I-539, and that can cause some issues in processing and confusion on that as well. But that's more or less where we're at the moment. I think the biggest takeaways are there's uncertainty, lack of clarity. Try to think of other alternatives in the meantime. Try to avoid unnecessary travel, and be monitoring, like really good resources. Like if you have a private attorney that's representing you, or you're monitoring their social media and newsletter, or a few of them, on like where you're getting your news and late breaking updates. But again, it is very uncharacteristic of the government normally to be doing things so last minute without giving enough time for all of the parties to absorb and take in what the changes are.
Absolutely. All right, so I think that was a great information, Ruby, that you have explained us, and that too with PPT. Firstly, I would like to say thank you to you, as you have put a lot of efforts, and that too for us, for our viewers. So thank you so much, Ruby, for spending time and explaining things in brief and making us understand. And with that, you have explained a lot of things beautifully. But let me be a little more specific about the questions because we still have a lot of queries regarding it. So you have explained a lot of things about the situation, right? I would also like to know the reason behind this bold step. According to you, what can be the reason behind taking this bold step? Can it be like promoting U.S. jobs or for revenue, or is it something else?
Well, I think when the president was running for office, I think he made some campaign promises to to people about what he was going to do. I think that it's really hard for me to understand this perspective because I'm also seeing as a full service practicing immigration attorney, we're seeing a lot of TPS and parole and asylum and other immigrants who are here lose some of their ability to maintain their ability to stay here and have work authorization. So we've already had reports of about 1 million immigrants have disappeared from, like, I guess the payrolls in just the last 7 or 8 9 months, and so it's really going to impact our economy if it hasn't already. Um, so I believe the idea was to make it harder for certain individuals to be able to come to the United States, unfortunately. But I have a hard time understanding the justification of it, because and what we have seen is that it's not targeted to just one visa. For example, with the F1, the changes to the duration of status is going to have an impact on that pipeline of the students that come to the United States who later are OPT, and usually the pipeline leads to H-1Bs. And so by targeting this change, it affects the F1s, which affects the OPTs and the H-1Bs. And it also affects the colleges here in the United States, who in many cases can't afford to run without the international student in the pipeline. And so I do believe it was to target certain individuals from being able to use this visa, but I really don't understand the why. And because we know that immigrants bring a lot of new ideas and innovation. We know that we need to stay competitive around the world, and we need to be able to have a place to bring these ideas and new ways of thinking and foreign labor to help make the U.S. be able to do what it's been doing for so many years. And so I think there was some political some behind it to be able to, and it's quite unfortunate because the H-1B is that wonderful pathway where usually the individual is petitioned for by the company with the perm process, or maybe they marry a U.S. citizen, or maybe they build up their resume and can do the national interest waiver, or what have you. But having those 6 years and the additional 1 year added on during the perm, for example, it creates a wonderful pipeline. There is no true other option exactly on point with that. And whenever we've had issues with, like, the lottery or the economy or whatever, yeah, people have moved over to other visa types, but ultimately they boomerang back to the H-1B because of what options it provides. And is also with dual intent, it provides a lot of options.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's very well put up. All right, so I think, Ruby, if you can also let us know, who are the people, because till now we have been knowing that of course the H-1B applicants, they will be affected. So is it like people who are already in the US who are under H-1B visa holders, does these changes also apply to them, or any precaution that they have to take care? What's your call on that?
Well, we're not exactly sure who this is going to impact in going forward, because I think this got a lot of attention, obviously, and then I think it was really poorly played out
Yeah.
because of all of the uncertainty, the lack of for foresight, and to of making it understandable, and how many people it impacts, and it was very chaotic, to say
Yeah.
the least. And so I think what we have, as people who genuinely are following this, is to know we're probably going for a ride of uncertainty between now and when the next lottery comes around in next March, and the next opening with the fiscal, the fiscal year with H-1B in April. But I think the key takeaways are, if you can go move to another visa, ideally that would be better, probably, but you might not be able to. And so there's a lot of, what do we do with that? If I think some of the questions were, if you're potentially eligible for an O or some other thing, yeah, explore that,
Yeah.
so that you don't have to put all your eggs in the H-1B basket. Are they only going to impact new H-1Bs instead of renewals and people already in it? That could be the case, that they're trying to target new H-1Bs and change that. Again, there's rulemaking, there's comment period, there's litigation. So even though what I just said, that means it can drag out for a little bit longer, and it also can, it might take a while to know exactly how it's all going to play out. Because I know some of my colleagues have been filing lawsuits about this, because of just trying to have more clarity, so they can help the companies that they represent, so we can all help the companies we represent to navigate this. Um, so I think that's just the biggest takeaway, is just there's still uncertainty, and so much can change between now and next spring.
That's right. That's right. I think 2025 is full of uncertainty, and every day we are waking up with something new, and new rules, new visa fees, and everything is coming up. So I think it is a very high time, Ruby. I think that people should get in touch with an expert. And friends, we will also suggest that instead of gambling or just having a guessing game, it is better to have a right guidance. And the best part is you can also get in touch with our attorney, with our expert, none other than attorney Ruby L. Powers. You can directly visit the link that will be visible on the screen, and you can get in touch with her, ask any question, any query, in case if you want to share your documents, or have a personal guidance. So she would love to help you out. Okay, and with that, Ruby, I think there are certain viewers who have joined us. Okay, so let me go one by one. So Remy is here, David is here, Fawad is also here. Hi guys, and welcome to Immigration Talk Show. Okay, let's take up Fawad's question here. So Fawad is asking, I'm a software engineer who got laid off recently. How does that impact my H-1B status right now in 2025?
Fawad, I'm sorry to hear that. What that So if you have no other ability to move over to a dependent visa, then, and again, this isn't legal advice, it's information, so you should always have a consultation with an immigration attorney to verify your situation. But for the most part, when situations like this have happened, my firm has suggested to the individual to maybe move over to maybe a B2 temporarily, as they're closing down maybe their home and their effects and things like that, as they're maybe not, so that they don't have any unlawful presence time and they don't overstay, and to buy them a little bit more time to close up and potentially and or find other employment to switch to. But But for the most part, when you're no longer employed, you're not being paid, you're not technically being employed, you really need to either leave the United States or switch to another visa immediately. We also look to see, is the individual married, and would they be able to move over to like a dependent visa? There's also the possibility of maybe switching to an F1 if you get accepted to a school and can do a change of status to an F1 as well. That could work when strategy of being able to be eligible for an OPT at a different level if you hadn't been eligible for, if you haven't exhausted those OPT education levels already. So those are some of the things I think about immediately with this type of fact pattern.
All right. All right. Thank you, Ruby, for your answer and taking up this question. Fawad, I hope you got your answer. And in case if you have any other question or follow up, then please go ahead and put them on the comment section. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please do it right now. Okay, David is here. Hi, David. And your question is, how are international travel and H-1B visa stamping being impacted by consular delays or policy updates this year?
Well, we sort of covered some of that at the beginning, where there's some changes where they're not allowing, they're limiting extremely the third country uh, visits and stamping at consulates for the non-immigrant and the immigrant cases. Also, with the government shutdown, which we're into a week of that tomorrow, that there are certain services that are not going to be provided, or funding will start diminishing. And so that's going to cause more delays. I think I saw something right before we got on about the administration and funding for back pay for federal employees. It doesn't look very good for the employees. So when things like this have happened in the past, what happens is sometimes the employees start leaving because of so much uncertainty. And then what happens is that this processing gets slower.
Yeah.
And right, I forgot what year that was when there was a fear of furlough for DHS, USCIS. It was in August of maybe, I don't know what year that was, during the Trump administration. A lot of it, officers decided to start leaving because there's so much uncertainty. And so why I'm bringing that up is that we're dealing with the changes that were announced before the shutdown were about the limiting the stamping into to your primarily your own country, which can cause delays. Plus, also depending how far away your home country is from the United States for those stamps. But also with the government shutdown, we're not sure how long this is going to last, and it's going to start causing the slowdowns. There's usually times, and that's another thing that happened under the Trump administration. This one is that they were making a lot of these interviews more required, right? Because under Biden, they were starting to do visa interview waivers, so that you didn't have to go back if you'd been previously approved unless there was an issue. And that was a way to increase efficiency. So I guess the short answer to what I just said is probably more delays and probably more uncertainty, especially as the government shutdown continues.
That's right. That's right. And I think with that, Ruby, we are also getting an option that some people are asking. They are looking for some alternatives, maybe Canada, Australia, some other places as well. So, is it like you can also suggest them to look for some other places, or what can be the alternatives other than this?
Well, I'll just make a disclaimer. I'm a U.S. immigration attorney, so I don't know about the immigration status of those other countries, but I have been reaching out to professionals in other countries more recently, due to a lot of the changes, and knowing that some of my clients need to consider alternative options, maybe short
Yeah.
term, um, until they're able to get back in, for whatever reason. Yeah, I mean, I think Canada, Australia have a lot of merit-based options based on education and language. But I think and then there also could be people eligible for citizenship through their heritage, their ancestry. There also are a lot of like nomad visas, for lack of another word. It's like when you go temporarily. So maybe you are working for a US based company, but you're living in not your home country, because I don't know, let's just say Portugal for something. Like maybe they allow you to work there if you can show that you make enough money, have a job remotely, and they're just happy that you're paying rent and buying food and living in their country. So there could be some type of alternative in that respect. I would just say, like, explore your options early. Consider what you're, because if it has anything to do with like the United States, then some of this stuff is not going to be fast. And if other people are thinking the same thing, it could be flooding their immigration avenues. But these are some of the things that I've been exploring for my clients and to provide some options. But again, that reach out to a professional that has the capability and jurisdiction to speak to that country's immigration laws.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's very well said, and that's a great advice. All right, and let's go ahead with the next viewer. So Ricky is here, then Remy is also here. Let us take Remy's question. So Remy is saying that can you talk more on way out on visa stamping delay? The H-1B is not yet activated and petition has long been approved. Uh, is I think this is the question is okay. That's all. Yeah, has been approved. I think till here the question is.
I think we covered a lot of this on the last
Mhm.
question, so maybe you just refer to that. To try to schedule it, and see what's going on. But you're going to have to be monitoring that closely due to the government shutdown delays, and I think see the answer I just stated
Yeah,
earlier.
absolutely. We have been talking about it. So, Remy, I think Ruby has already explained a lot about this question. So, you can go back and have a look on this in case if you have joined a session little later. Then, no problem. This will be on stream, and you can anytime you can go ahead and check out this webinar. It will be on our channel. Okay, then Anand is here, and Anand has a question. I have stamping done on my H-1B on April 2025. I'm in India and never traveled to USA. Now I have another employer willing to transfer while I am in India. Am I impacted by $100,000 proclamation?
So, did you ever? Well, I think this is a very good question for a consultation because there's a lot of moving parts. I think, did you work for that company? Stamping on. Okay, so were you were probably subject to the cap, and now you're not for the transfer probably. I think for the most part, the 100,000 is supposed to be starting next year, so you're very likely not subject to that. But I think my question would be for you is who are you working for, and what's your plan? What's your plan for that transfer? And were you subject to the cap? You probably were, and you don't have to again. But there's a lot of little parts to that question. But I think the bigger takeaway is I don't see you subject to 100,000 at the moment, because it seems to be that's more of an April 2026 issue. But again, like we've talked about, we don't know what that's going to look like exactly.
All right, all right. Thank you so much, Ruby, for taking up this question, and Anand also for participating in our session. Do join us on these webinars and participate and have more questions in case if you have. We would love to answer them. Okay, now Ricky is here. And hi, Ricky. Thank you so much for your question. So, Ruby, Ricky is asking that can you give some idea on how service center times and functioning have changed under the new scopes classification for all centers? And okay, there's another question. So, let's cover this first.
Okay. Well, I think what's going on right now is that there's different priorities under this administration. So some things seem to be moving a lot faster than others. And let's see how service center times and functioning have changed. I think what we're seeing online when they go under the processing times, I think that what's been happening is they've been increasing the number so that individuals cannot make of what the estimated processing time is, so that individuals cannot make a complaint or start doing inquiries. So the scopes is that Service Center Operations Directorate, which is responsible for the processing of the different applications, and they oversee California, Nebraska, Potomac, Texas, and Vermont. Um, but I think that we're can continue to monitor this. Like the USCIS is not extremely impacted by the government shutdown because most of it was fee based. Some applications were not. But in terms of the administration, I think they've been putting a lot of certain applications forward versus others. I feel like adjustments and naturalization are moving faster in some respects, and some have been slowing. Certain adjustments I think have been slowing down. We also are dealing with the visa processing, so the backlog of some of the visa bulletin. So there's a lot of moving parts with this, unfortunately, and I I think time will tell. Even though the government but shutdown does not directly affect the fee-based processing, it does affect other aspects of the government. So even though we might not understand how it all plays out, I think it's still having an impact. And really, any of these government shutdowns have always led to more delays in processing in general. So between the priorities and between the shutdown, we'll just have to keep monitoring this, but it's not, they don't lead to speeding up of certain things.
All right. That's very well put up. Then, Ruby, I think I can see a lot of viewers have joined us as we have scheduled a time for half an hour only, but it's like 37 minutes. So I just wanted to know your side. Like, will it be okay if we can extend our session for 5 more minutes and after that we can take a leave? Will that be okay, or you are rushing somewhere?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, okay,
I
that's great. So, friends, we have 5 more minutes. Until then, keep on asking questions. Okay, Ali is here, and Ali is asking, can you please shed some light on H4 to E2 COS?
Okay. I think my question is more specifically, what do you mean? What's your question? If you're eligible for an E2, then yeah, go ahead and do it. H4 is that H-1B dependent. It's very limited. Generally, you can't work with it. The E2, you could do that change of status inside the country. I think a lot of individuals, are you going to start a business from scratch? Are you going to buy a business? Are you a citizen of a country that allows you to be an E2, like, for example, Pakistan is, India isn't, for example. But if you could either be an E2 employee or an E2 employer. And what's good about the E2 is it can allow a spouse to work. It is a non-immigrant visa. It's not dual intent like the H. There isn't a deadline in terms of, there's been some individuals with the E2s have them for 20 years. You do have to make a statement that you're going to return back home. So you're supposed to not have immigrant intent, but it can be a great option for remaining inside the country. You just have to have a pretty good, whether you're being the employer or the employer, you really need to have a solid package to be able, if you want to apply for it inside the country. If you don't, you might get a request for evidence. It could cause delays. So just being mindful of the processing time. But I do find a lot of individuals, if they're making a company from scratch, can take 6 months or so to do a good job with a business plan, make the tax ID number, the bank account, and do all that investment.
Okay, so I think Ali has mentioned something. He's saying, my wife is on H4 and she wants to open a business on E2. I heard E2 COS is a very tricky process. So yeah.
I mean, it depends on what you're trying to do. You need to have someone who has experience with the E2, and but yeah, if you want to open a business, there's also consideration of how much is the investment that you're going to make, and how successful it is. Do you have enough funds beyond the investment so that you can show that you have the means to live and sustain yourself during that process?
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Ruby, for answering this question. And Ali, I hope you got your answer. Okay, Harsha is here also, and he's watching us from LinkedIn. So, Harsha is asking, I previously held an H-1B visa and maintained valid status while working in the US. If I now join a new employer from India and attend a visa interview for stamping, what employment related documents such as payslips, W-2s, or tax returns should I bring to demonstrate my prior compliance with visa requirements while traveling back to USA? And will they be asking these documents, or is it just to carry the current documents of the new employer?
Well, I think it's best to have everything. There's this concept called Murphy's Law, where it's like when you don't have those documents, then they're going to ask you for it, and when you have them in your pocket on your person, then they're not going to ask you for it. So I'd rather have it on your person, be prepared, and then them not ask you for it. Because if they wanted it, and again, there's lots of different changes and directives, but if they do want it, then they could put you in some delayed processing, like 221 um, G processing, and that could cause a little bit more delays. So they're wanting to maintain. So you really think about, what is it that I'm trying, what are they adjudicating, and what do I need to prove to them? I qualify for this visa, that it's in front of me, but I also never overstayed. I never worked illegally, and everything has been, and I did do what I said I did in the past. I worked for that company. So I think that's smart to become prepared. Maybe it'll look like you're over prepared, but whatever. It's rather better to be over prepared than to regret that you didn't bring what you needed. So yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think a lot of viewers have joined us, Ruby, and it really feels great that so many people are participating in this session. And I still have few questions. So I think let's take up as the last one, because we can't extend the session more than 45 minutes. But Remy is here, and Remy is asking that visa status is on administrative processing. H-1B petition approved, form H-1B approved. Employer refused to send form I-129 required. What is your advice?
This is a bit unique. I'm not sure why they're refusing to send it. I don't understand why the scenario. So I think that would probably just make sense to have a consultation, to get a little bit more. Uh, Reach out to the attorney that's representing you, and if depending on that, get a consultation with an attorney to get proceed. So that seems very very specific to your particular situation. So yeah, but I thank you for having me. I know we couldn't give a lot of concrete answers, but we're continuing to monitor these changes, and just doing our best day by day to give people the best advice and information that we can as we navigate the complexities known as immigration in the United States. And we know a lot of people's lives depend on all this information and on these changes. And so you're not alone. Everyone's impacted by a lot of different things being thrown at us at all different directions, unfortunately. And we're just trying to, take it day by day, keep our calm and cool, and sort of do what we can control, evaluate what we can control, what we can't control, and continue to do our best every day. So I appreciate this time, this venue, and people can always reach out to us, like you've mentioned. They can find us with Powers Law Group in Houston, Texas, and we help individuals all around the U.S. and the world on U.S. immigration matters. So thanks, Sam and team, for having me again.
Thanks to you too, Ruby. And as usual, it is our honor, and we are still again, very happy to have you back on our show, and really looking forward to have more and more conversation because the pointers and the information that you bring up in our session, those are like commendable and fantastic. So thank you so much for being here, and have a great day. And I'll just say that let's meet together and have again a very fantastic show. As I love this, and I have seen a lot of viewers have joined us. So they still have a lot of questions, but friends, don't go anywhere and stay connected even after this session ends. We would still get in touch with you and provide you the answers. Till then, it's time for you all to take a leave. So thank you so much, Ruby, and have a great day. And it was lovely having you.
Thanks again. My pleasure. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, friends. So that's all for today's episode, and I hope you enjoyed watching this session. In case if you're still having any doubt or any query regarding the topic, please go ahead and put them on the comment section. And as you already know that we also share the links of the attorney contact link where you can get in touch with them and have any query or any doubt that you're facing right now. So don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Our handle is at Immigration TalkShow. And we are live on YouTube, also available on LinkedIn, Facebook, X, and on Instagram as well. Do follow us on these many social media platforms and take care, everyone. I'm Sam, signing off for now.